All right, kids, let's jump right in. So I'll start off with a WinForms application that I built. At design time, it looks like this. It will draw a gradient over here. In fact, we can just run it. You can take a look at it and see what it looks like running. Here it is right here. I can move the colors on the start side, and they're hooked up. The bars on the right are not hooked up yet, at least in terms of changing the color. And I also have the ability to click on a preset, for example, to go to a particular gradient. So let's work on hooking up these pieces on the right. We'll start with that. So I'm just going to select these three. We'll go over here on the event, and we're going to look for the value changed event. We'll call this the end color changed. That'll be the name of that handler. I'm going to drop a marker. I just hit Alt plus Home to drop the marker. I'm going to come up here to where I've got this start color changed. I'll copy that. I'll hit Escape to jump back, and then we'll do a quick search and replace of start with end, and let me bring that over here so you can see that. We'll replace those. Here's my replace all slightly off screen. Okay. So we've done that. Now you can see something that's interesting going on here is the old code that I copied from. We've already got a property called start red, start green, and start blue. If we drill into those, you can see they're actually wrapping the track bars. Here's the start blue track bar. Its value property is all it's doing. But those don't exist yet for end green, end blue. If we go over into the declaration of those track end, we can actually wrap that value property just like you saw with the starts very quickly and easily using a cool feature in CodeRush called encapsulate property, where we can take a field that's part of the class. It doesn't have to be a WinForms product. It can be any class. Take a field. If that field has properties, we can encapsulate them. For example, we can take the value property right here and place it. It's grouping it with the other properties, and we can just call this end red, for example. I hit Escape to get back. I can come down to that end green track bar, do the same thing, encapsulate its value property, call it end green, hit Escape to get back, and then encapsulate the final one, that end blue. And now if we run this, here's the app right here. Now, if I make changes here, we should see those changes showing up. So it's a useful. Here, let's jump into those so you can see that code one more time. It's useful if you have a field of some kind and you want to then encapsulate its property. You can also encapsulate methods and events as well. And CodeRush just builds that code for you, gets the type of whatever that property is, and gives that to you. I've used this in the past, for example, encapsulating the text property of a form that I might want to put up to get an answer from the user, for example. So that's cool. Let's run it one more time and see if we have any other issues inside of it. I notice I have these preset buttons right here. If I click preset 1, there you can see it makes that change. Preset 2. Let's go back to preset 1. Let's click it a second time and a third time. So what's going on is it should be going straight to this. Preset 1 goes black to white. Preset 2 goes red to blue. But I have to click it a few times to make the change. Something's wrong here. Let's set a breakpoint and find out exactly what the issue is here. Let's close this down and close this down as well. And so we have to maximize the screen, and we'll see what's going on. Let's set a breakpoint here in start color, and also let's set a breakpoint here in color change. So this is when the that color track bar changes, and the other one is when the property is assigned. And so we'll come back over here, and now we'll hit preset 1. And so now we're assigning into start color, and we're going to just step through, stepping, and now I'm coming back over into color change. What's happening here is that as soon as I change the track value of the start red, what happens is it gets back in and it starts to assign to start color again because it's seeing that this value is changing here. And sometimes this happens when you want to make, what we want to do here is we want to make a change into these controls, but we don't want the controls to fire off their value changed events, or at least if they do fire them, we want to not respond. So what we need is something like this. We need something that looks like this. If modifying internally, then return. And to declare this, I'm just going to hit the CodeRush key. I'll choose declare field. It can detect that it's a Boolean, and it's declared it for me at the top of the file. If I'm not sure about that, I can just hit the tab key to get up there, and I can see that declaration for me. So we have that in the start color changed, and then we can go to end color change, or did I call it something else? And there it is right there, end color change. Come down here, do the same thing if modifying internally, and then we can go back to this block of code. And what we want to do is we want to basically create a state change, wrap it around this piece. So the shortcut to do this, the way to do this quickly, is to copy the identifier to the clipboard. I have that now, modifying internally. I just pasted that in. And then 2, you want to use the ST template. And so we'll do that, and we'll type in ST space, and we've done that. The third step is to select the block, and then we want to hit the letter F to embed it in a try finally block. And by the way, let me get the link over here. So you can see this. And I'll paste it also in as well. This is the link right here. If you want to learn more about selection embedding, let me paste it into the chat window. And we'll pause that for a minute. Paste that in so you can see this if you want to learn more about selection embedding. And for those who are watching this in the recorded state, then select 4 is press F, and then 5 is the SF template. All right. So we've gotten to this point. Select F. Oh, and then actually there's one more. And let's press Escape. Like this, and then 6 is the SF template. We'll do this one more time so you can see it. So we've done this part, these steps right here. We copied the identifier to the clipboard. We used ST, which stands for set to true. We selected, we pressed the letter F, and we hit escape. We're going to do that now. It gets us inside the finally block. And we type in SF to set to false. And so what we've done in a very few keystrokes, 1, 2, the selection, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 keystrokes, we've built this code right here very quickly. So we can do the same thing over here, the same thing. We'll come in here at the very beginning, ST, set it to true, select, hit the letter F, escape, set to false. Very fast, very quick to create this kind of state where we're setting the state, making some changes, and then restoring the state back out again. So let's run it and see if that fixes it. So we'll come over here. Oops, let's clear it. We'll clear those breakpoints. And so there we can still make these changes here, and then we go to preset 1, and they all change immediately. So it's now working the way it should. So we don't have those extra side effects that are being caused. Okay, so that's cool. We used encapsulate property to get that end color, those wrappers around for end red, end blue. These right up here. Here we go. We use encapsulate property to get these pieces, let me go up. I want to show you one other thing too here that I wrote in my list, and that is in place rename. The idea is that I can be anywhere on any reference. It can be a type reference or a local reference, and I can just hit F2 to rename it, and I can rename it right there in place. I don't have to actually go to the declaration. It's nice. I just need a reference to it. Okay, so let's do this. Let's add a third color preset. So we've got over here, we've got these two presets. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste this. I'll come down over here. We'll call it preset 3. And I like to give things good names, so we'll call it button preset 3, like that. And then we will double click on the click event handler. And now we want to put some code in here. We've already got some code for the other presets, so I'm just going to copy that code to the clipboard. I'll come down here and we'll paste this in. And let's select this, and we'll do a search and replace here where we search preset 2, and we'll replace that with preset 3. We'll just do a replace all. Now, here is a useful situation where normally, if you want to declare something new, like here we have this preset 3 field, we want to declare this, but we don't have, there's no real way for CodeRush to figure out what kind of field this is. We don't have enough context here. So the fast way to create a field that's similar to a field that already exists, so let me just put this here, creating a field similar to a field, similar, same type, to a field that already exists. Hey, Rory, by the way, I was totally kidding when I said microphone off. I feel like I'm like all alone out here, you know. There we go.
No, man, I'm here with you. You're doing very well, as you know.
All right, so we want to create a field of the same type to a field that already exists, and this is a shortcut that I use frequently. It's a combination of a few features. So step one is put the caret. Well, step one is you copy the field to the identifier to the clipboard. So I've done that. So step one is copy. And by the way, I haven't been showing you this, but all I do is I press the copy key. And let me do this.
So there was no highlighting of the thing you wanted to copy in this case.
Right.
CodeRush figured that much out for you.
Right. So I put the caret here. I hit copy. Whatever that is for you. Control C, Control Insert. Okay. Press the copy key. Number two is to put the caret on the other field, on the existing field. Okay. So go right up here. Number three is press F12 or whatever your key is to go to definition. And now we're here. We've jumped up here. Step 4 is to press Shift Insert to duplicate line. And step 5 is to paste. And step 6 is to press Escape to get back. It's very, very fast. So I'll finish writing these out. So we got 3 is F12 to jump in. 4 is Shift plus Enter to duplicate line. That's the CodeRush feature. And then 5 is paste. And 6 is escape to get back.
It's worth noting that when you do the Shift Enter and you duplicate the line, we're not just copying the text. It's figured out that this is a declaration of a variable, and it's figured out that this particular portion of the line is the name of that declaration, so that when you paste, you haven't had to select again.
Yeah.
It knows the piece you're replacing that you're most likely to want to replace when you duplicated it.
Yeah, watch how fast this is. If I'm here, I drill in, Shift Enter, paste, escape to get back. It's really, really fast to do that, to get that declaration in there. Okay?
There's a question in the list of questions in the chat room here. What is the copy key? Well, this is literally whichever copy key you are used to using. This is the standard clipboard keys. Control C in some cases, Control Insert in others. We're hooking the standard clipboard keys and taking advantage of some extra knowledge because of the context of the code, and we're copying the most logical thing to copy automatically.
All right. So if no selection exists, we'll give you a smart selection. That's what's going on. If my caret was here and I hit the copy key, I get the whole block. If it's here and I hit the copy key, I get the whole block. That's what's going on. Okay? So let's go in and let's go up to the top here. Let's use tab to next reference to see where preset 2 is showing up. It's showing up here. Let's copy both of those, paste. I'm going to change this to preset 3. I'm going to hit the copy key to copy to clipboard, and down here I'm going to hit Control B to paste replace. Control plus B equals paste replace. It replaces the identifier at the clipboard with whatever you've got, which is really handy if I want to have a whole bunch of these. And then the last thing I'll do is I'll just use the CodeRush color picker to come in here and pick a different color for this particular one. Let's go like from a teal. Let's find a teal in here that we like. And to,
for those that haven't seen it before, the color picker is available anywhere in any kind of code where color is referenced. Everything from HTML through XAML, WPF, Silverlight, and obviously VB and C# as well. You'll get these little bars underneath that show you the exact shade that the code is referencing, assuming it's possible to pick it up. And from there you can reach the dialog and pick your own colors to then replace that code if need be.
Nice. So pretty cool. So I'm almost ready to ship, although I've noticed that CodeRush is highlighting the left side of the screen. At least it was here a second ago. Let's give it a chance to read. Let me just take end color change. I want to take it and move it up anyway so that you can see this. And all right. So over here, there we go. It just started to do the search. So it's found some duplicates. So you see here I've got preset 1 click, preset 2 click, and preset 3 click. I've got 3 different bits of code here, and CodeRush is telling me that we've got some duplicate code. So you've probably seen us show how we can consolidate duplicate code before, but the tip that I wanted to show here is that the block. So we've got 3 different duplicates here. They're all the same, essentially the same block of code. The only difference is this one works on preset 1, this one works on preset 2, etc. So you can see those that are working down there on the different blocks that are there, and you can see what code is going to be passed in. And what I was going to say, what you want to do is you want to start the consolidation from the piece that looks the best to you. So, like for example, right here, since these are all different, right, in terms of what I've got a large comment in this block of code over here. This one is a little more compact. This one I've got a local variable that I'm declaring, but it's essentially the same as this piece. So it's all different. I can select the one that I like the best and say, let's do consolidation from here, and put it in the current class, and we can put it in like this, and we can say we'll call this preset click, like that. And then we'll come in here and we'll change this to just the preset pair. A color pair, by the way, is something I just declared out over here. It just says start and end color to it, like that. And so we've now gone through and we've consolidated those 3 blocks of code, and we have the one here that's based on the one piece we started from. So if you're going to consolidate, pick the one that looks the best to you out of the duplicates, in case they are different, if they're structurally different, but functionally similar, and pick that one. That's the tip that I wanted to use there. So we're almost ready to ship, Rory, except for I just got a change request in from a customer who doesn't like the horizontal gradient. They really want a vertical gradient instead. So I'm going to just copy this to the clipboard. All I have to do is remember I can just do smart copy. Just put the caret at the beginning, hit the copy key, it'll grab the whole method. I can now paste it in. I can use selection increase to grab the method again. Hit the CodeRush refactor key, which by default is Control plus the backtick. That's kind of a by the way, in the sign up description for this webinar, there's a link at the end that says here's the introductory video on CodeRush. So our assumption is you've seen that already when we're now at this point. And so when I say hit the CodeRush key, that's explained in that video. So we'll hit the CodeRush key, and we're going to choose rotate 90 degrees. And what rotate 90 degrees does is it takes code that works in 2 dimensions and has it working 90 degrees to those 2 dimensions. That's what it does. It is not a refactoring. It's in the blue menu. So it has a potential to change code or functionality, which is actually what we want. So I'm going to choose rotate 90 degrees, and I'm going to change draw horizontal gradient to draw vertical gradient. And the only thing I need to change are the parameters down here. I need to make sure the parameters are actually x and y going in. So I just change that around there. And now instead of calling draw horizontal gradient, we can call draw vertical gradient instead, and pass in these pieces to it. Okay, and then we'll run that, and you can see that change in action. So here we are, preset 1, preset 2, preset 3, right? Very fast to make those changes. And the only thing I'm noticing is that the gradient is actually coming up behind here, so you're not actually seeing the very, very start. But it is working now. So drawing across vertically, it's now instead of drawing across horizontally, it's now drawing across vertically. Something I'm just realizing I should have done before I went in there is demonstrate another CodeRush tip, one of my favorite refactorings, and that is Decomposed Parameter. Sometimes in the process of refactoring, you get some parameters that are bigger than you'd really like them to be. And when I say bigger, I mean the type of the parameter is something very specific, specialized, and you want to get something maybe less specialized, get one of its pieces. For example, here we're passing in paint event args, and if we do tab to next reference, the only time E is used is here with regards to the graphics property. So what we could really do is replace this paint event args parameter with a graphics parameter type instead. And we can do that just by putting the caret on the piece we want to change, hit the CodeRush refactory key, and choose Decomposed Parameter, and it will take care of the calling code for us. And give us a new name, and we can change that if we want to, call it G, for example, or give it a meaningful name like the one suggested. And we can do the same thing here. Notice we've got form, gradient, test form. We're passing in this form. We're doing it just to get the client rectangle. We can do the same thing here. We come in and we choose this. We choose Decomposed Parameter. And now we're going to be getting a client rectangle that we're passing in. And we can also even come in and we can even come in here and we can say, let's decompose this one more time, I think. Can we do it there? Well, I thought we could. Guess not. Let's do this, though. Oh, I know why, because it's a straight assignment. Let's come down in here to do an inline temp on all of those. We'll just change it back to rect, call it rect. And now that we're using it, now notice we're using rect.height, height, left, and right. We could decompose one more time and now turning one parameter into 3. But now instead of having a specialized rect we're passing in, we have 3 less specialized ints that we're passing in. So it's a way to make things a little more reusable from outside, and it's smart enough to be able to turn one parameter into multiples if you want to. And the preview hint shows you what's going on there. So there's decompose parameter. And the last refactoring I wanted to show was right here, is that if you have a field that's initialized, like you can see this is here, you can choose split initialization from declaration, and it will move that initialization into the constructor. And it just did right there. So split initialization from declaration, normally you use it when you have something like this, like if I have a new int, like my int, like this, and I set it equal to some value. Split initialization from declaration could always do this. And then we have the opposite to move it back up. But what's not as obvious is when we have something like this, that we can actually move it into the constructor like that. So that's pretty cool. The last thing I want to show you is just as far as tips. How am I doing on time, Rory? Am I okay or no?
We're about 25 minutes in.
So I have to switch over to you?
Soon.
All right. I will show these. I will show some templates. I'll show you two templates that are interesting to me, and maybe a few more, but I'll try and get them all in about 80 seconds or less. So the first set of templates are the T-type templates. And so type here, this means, when you see this, this means you're going to substitute a shortcut for that type. So for example, if I want to get to a T color, I can type in TCL, and I'm sorry, when I said T color, I mean if I just want to get that color reference on there, I can get it. TB will get me a bool, TS will give me a string, TI will give me an int. So it's just a way to save some shortcuts if you want to get a reference to a type. A TP, for example, would give me a point. So also, some of these types, for example, string, if we go into string, you can see string is string.empty. Well, if you want to get to string.empty, we also have the type.e templates. And so if I type in s.e, I'll get string.empty. If I type in p for point.e, I'll get point.empty. Okay? So .e gives me the empty access, if it's got an empty property in it, a property called empty. There are also some combos that you can use with the templates. So for example, let's say I have a method here, my proc, I don't know what it does yet, and let's just say we do something like this. We say we want to return a value. We use R and the space bar, and it will give us return, and we can type in whatever that value is. We want T for true. We type in the space. We say T space, and it gives us now return true. But I can combine those. I can just type in RT space and get return true like that. Or I can type in RN to get return null. So I can do these combinations. I can also do RSE for return string.empty if I wanted to do something like that. Notice if I'm at this point, I'm in a void proc, I can hit the CodeRush key. Another one of my favorite refactorings is convert to function. Turns the void proc into a function that returns that value. So I think that's it, Roy. I'm going to pass over to you now, and we have a whole. I just in prepping for this, the one thing I'll say is actually I won't say it. I'm going to say it when you're done, Roy. Go ahead, Roy. We're going to switch presenter over to you now. Let's see how quickly we can do that.
Actually, before you start, Rory, Mark, we have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
And first one is there a refactoring that changes start to end and vice versa? I think there's one that replaces top and bottom, left and right. There's one from start to end.
I'm pretty sure there is not. If we had it, it would be. Yeah, there's not. Now it's something we could add if that was something that you did a lot of. We could certainly add support for that. It's something you could create in a plugin as well. We do have though things for column and row. So the rotate 90 degrees also works for column and row. For example, if I have some code that looks like this, and we change, let's change I to row, like this, and I have some sort of, let's just make this 10, for example. I have code that looks like this, and I'm going to say row equals row plus, oops, I'm going to say equals here, row plus equals, and we say like row, oops, what am I saying, row height, like that. And we'll call this maybe total height. Let me spell it in a way that makes me happier. Okay, so we have code like this, and actually this might be called the line or something along those lines. Dot row height. So we've got something like this. This is our code. So what we can do is we can come in here, we can select this, and we can say rotate that 90 degrees. And if I hold down the control key, you can see what's going to happen inside of it in terms of rotating that. So you can see that it gets you almost everything. It doesn't change row height to. Because I misspelled height, is that really the problem? Is it HI? I'm like totally. That does not look right to me at all. Yeah. So HI. What am I doing? I can't even. Can somebody help me spell height? What's wrong with me today?
HEI.
HEI. Yeah, I got it. I had it. It was just looking. It was not looking right to me. So anyway, so let's look at this one more time. Rotate 90 degrees, and we can make that change. The only thing it didn't change is on the end is it didn't get this to the width. So we'll show this to the devs and have them fix that. But that's kind of the idea. Is you can change rows to columns and columns to rows, things like that. And the other one that's related to this in terms of working with X's and Y's is if we go to, let's go to the part where we're drawing the gradient here. Well, we can kind of select it and demo it, although this is not going to be as exciting. But the other thing you can do is mirror code. What mirror code does is this switches left and right is what it does. It swaps things, switches left and right and top and bottom. So that might sometimes be useful. I find it's less useful, though, than rotating. So the question, though, that's interesting, though, it kind of gets you to a, it kind of makes me wonder if maybe we need a configurable way of doing a swapping, right? I want to change start and replace it with end, and I want to take end and replace it with start. To do that by hand requires 3 search and replace operations because you have to take one of them, turn it to a temp value, and then turn the other one into the value that was turned to the temp, and the temp back to the first one. So it's kind of a lengthy thing, and if you have to do it frequently, it's sometimes it may be useful for us to create this as a kind of a more generic feature where you list these are the pieces we want to change. So.
Okay, just one more, and we'll allow Rory to continue. How does split initialization work with overloaded constructors, says Matt?
Oh, that's a great question. I have a feeling it probably sticks it in the default constructor. Let's see what happens if we do that. So I have one constructor already. Let's create a new constructor very quickly, and we'll say in the new constructor we're going to initialize those presets, for example. So we'll create an overloaded constructor, clear that out, and let's take this and move it back up. Okay, and let's try it. It works well, is the answer to the question. I love it when that happens. Okay, so notice that it put it in both locations, in all the overloaded.
Nice.
Take that.
Refactoring. Same
Question
code,
asker.
same effect after as compared to before.
All right, let's switch over to Rory. Get him going over there. Rory, I'm going to change presenter over to you.
Okay.
Rory is going to say, yes, show my screen, and we will watch him take us out of here.
Okay. Allegedly, you can see my screen.
No, I can't see it yet. Yeah, now I can. I just see it now.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to start off with is a little explanation of this little toolbar at the top here. This is what we call the DX Core Visualize toolbar. Some people have commented that CodeRush adds a lot of visual things to the screen by default. This is without any of the animations that explain what may just have happened. So, for example, we've got some underlining going on here. We've got some document comments having been rewritten, and we've got miscellany all over the place. It all has a function, but it is all toggleable. You can turn it off if you want, and so a lot of it can be done from the toolbar here. The first item on the toolbar is our code issues toggle. This refers to little borders down the left here that explain, in this case, what is this? This is a plugin I've actually got running that adds some code issues. These are some style things. On the right here we have some similar information, and in line again we have various pieces of information which add to information that will help you to improve your codes. These are sort of drawing your attention to them. So that can be turned off over here. We've also got some spell checking things going on. This would probably refer to a different variation on the word license depending on English versus American. And that can be turned off as well. We've got member icons.
By the way, Roy, I had spell checking turned off. That's why I was like struggling with height.
That would make sense, yes. So yeah, we've got a lot of other things here. So we've got this is our XML doc comment painter. This effectively tries to reduce the impact that, first of all, the height of some of these comments. We use a nicer font, hopefully a nicer color. This is configurable again in the options, but you can turn it off. We have a comment painter, which will do very similar things with comments. There's a few niceties that I tend to like to keep turned on most of the time. You'll notice this is some code, by the way, Sharp developed. It's a fairly large open source solution. We've got some structural indicators here to show you the beginning and end braces where they link to. This can be turned off with the structural highlighting there. Region painting. Now, there is no regions in this particular class here, and again, you may love or hate regions. I can quickly switch to a second instance I have for a demo in a minute. You can see I've got some regions here, and the region painter will turn that on and off. It'll be off anyway when you're trying to edit this, but what it does is it reduces the visual noise that the region has. So if your company says we will have regions and you don't like them, well then you leave them expanded, you turn this on, and suddenly they're not in your way as much. They're not distracting from the code.
Right, and also, even when they're closed, it also reduces the visual noise on them instead of having that.
That's true.
Really,
I quickly collapse that down and move away from it. There we go. You can see again.
You can see it's got a lighter.
Mean that it doesn't get in your way. It doesn't leap and desperately grab your attention when you should be focusing, obviously, on other things. Okay. What else have we got? We've got some metrics. To the left or right of members, when this is turned on, you will tend to see a numeric value. Numeric value, if you click it, it'll tell you which numeric it's giving you at the moment. At the moment, this is cyclomatic complexity, which is a calculation designed to show you how complex this particular piece of code is. So the higher the number is, the more in need of refactoring it may be. These are obviously nice, simple items here. We've also got line count and one of Mark's own creations, I believe, maintenance complexity, which, if I'm correct, Mark, was designed to show how complicated it is to understand a given method and to therefore maintain it in the longer run.
Yes, and so everything. So cyclomatic complexity measures the number of branches in the code, and you get a 1 if there are no branches. You start with that. Never for every if statement, you increment it. But you could have a method that is large with very few branches, and so it appears with cyclomatic complexity to be a maintainable one, but it isn't. And so maintenance complexity gives every element a point value based on the complexity of that element itself. And so very large methods will get very large scores. And so yeah, it's a nice metric.
Good stuff. And so there's just one or two final other items. We've got a line highlighter here. You can see I've got this turned on, and as I click up and down, I've got it set to a fairly pastel shade myself because, again, it's useful to alert me to where it is when I come back to my machine, but I don't want it to interfere and distract me all the time. So I've managed to strike a reasonable balance there. We can turn that off. We have a right line there in case you are still in a position where you may be trying to print off code. You can set the physical limitation of that easily enough, again, within the options. And as I say, basically all of these can be turned off. So we can. You notice there's a little ball in the bottom right-hand corner of each icon. If we remove that, then all of these things are off, and you are back to a fairly clean and minimalist-looking code environment. So don't let anything put you off. Try them one at a time. See if they suit your particular needs, and if they don't, feel free to leave them off. That's not a problem. We don't force these features on you in any way, shape, or form. We're happy for you to select the ones that you find useful and to turn the other ones off, because different things will obviously suit different people and indeed different strategies at any given moment. All right. So that's our DX Core visualization toolbar. From there, I want to leap off and talk about, well, my role within DevExpress is one that's closely related with CodeRush, more specifically with configuration and expansion, the extensibility of things, making things that little bit better, adding to what we already have. And so with that in mind, I'd like to show you, first of all, some basic functions you may already know, and then show you how we might enhance them slightly with very little. We're certainly not going to do any coding here. That's way too complex and beyond the scope of what we're doing here. But we will show you some minor configuration and perhaps even some downloads that will help improve things. Excuse me. First thing to show you is our quick nav function. You'll see first of all on the right hand side here that I've got a little keys plugin. We use that for demonstration sometimes just to show you what keys I'm pressing. So as I go through this, hopefully it'll be a bit more apparent what I'm pressing. So if I go Control-Shift-Q, this is our quick nav function, quick navigation. And when you first see this, you may see it looking more like this. So it looks fairly plain. It's just a list of stuff. Quick navigation is what you might consider a code search. This is going to ignore comments, it's going to ignore text files, configuration, anything like that. This is searching anything that has a name. So a class, a member, structures, enumerations, anything like that. By default, we'll search everything. But what a lot of people don't know is that we've got a drop down here, which was available when I first showed this, which allows you to tweak exactly what is being searched for. So, of course, this first bunch, these are all independently choosable. You can turn them on or off, but these are various types of members. So methods, properties, events, we've got some fields and parameters as well. We can independently, again, turn off the types that are searched for, so classes, structures, and interfaces, things like that. We can change the access, the visibility, if you like, of the items that are to be found. So public, private, internal, friends, depending on your language choice. And finally, slightly different set of buttons. These are like radio buttons in that you can only choose one at a time. This will be the scope of your search. So the default there is the entire solution. To the right, we have project, namespace, and current file. And to the left, we have all files. Some people say, well, what's the difference between that and the solution? Well, all files will include any additional files you have loaded up. So you may very well have a class which is not part of this solution, but you have loaded, you have opened it up at the moment, and that particular setting will then go and find items within there as well. So that's the first tip, is that there is a lot of tweaking you can do to this search. It's a very, very quick search, so more often than not, I don't feel the need myself to tweak too much. But that said, if you're searching for something and you find a lot of answers, so we type the word class here, and I happen to know that there's an awful lot of items within this solution that have the word class in their name. So we might choose to deliberately restrict the type of items that we're looking for in order to get less noise, less residual items that we're not interested in. And so we can do that. But again, coming in here, pushing the buttons, having a close look, working out the exact combination, that can slow you down in itself. So what would be really good is if we could pre-configure this feature to do the kind of search that we want it to. And, you know, I asked about this a number of years back it was, and I found out, well, sure enough, facility exists already. If I close it down and visit the DevExpress options menu, a place where you can tweak all manner of items, you locate the IDE folder on the left here, and within that the shortcuts page. Here is where you make your own shortcuts, tweak existing ones. Maybe you load some that other people have shown you, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. We tend to suggest that when you're making your own items, be it templates or shortcuts or anything else in this hierarchy, that you deliberately create a folder at the root of the hierarchy called custom. That way, you know where your items have been held. You can quickly export those, back them up, keep them, pass them around. And should you reinstall on a new machine, you've only got one folder that you need to bring in, and everything will be working again. So for a new folder, we right-click anywhere in here, ask for a new folder, and to make it a top-level one, you literally just tick the box there and type in custom. I've already got one, so we won't need to do that. I've actually put the other ones, the ones that we're going to show you, these shortcuts, in a tips1 folder, and that's a very similar process. If you're making a brand new shortcut, right-click again and say new keyboard shortcut. At least in this case, you can make mouse shortcuts as well, but we're going to stick with the keyboard because I know that people are quite keen on this idea. So you make a new keyboard shortcut, and effectively all you get is a blank template for putting in the details that you need. You fill out the key you're interested in pressing, you pick from a drop-down list of commands, or indeed some of the Visual Studio ones can also be placed in here, and then any parameters you might need. The final step here, really, in most cases, is to pick a context. Anything you tick here will be required to be true in order for your keystroke to be even considered. That helps reduce the number of keystrokes you have to learn. If you have two functions, both of which you'd like to operate on Control-T, only in different circumstances, you pick different contexts for them both, you allocate the same key, and now CodeRush will intelligently work out, the contexts have changed, this one just isn't supposed to be used, and maybe instead we'll move to this secondary purpose. So that's a blank one from scratch. If I show you very quickly through the three keystrokes that I have built here. The original Control-Shift-Q is held down in the navigation folder, and I've disabled it for the moment. I'll show you why in just a minute, but that's where the original one is. I've created a rather long sequence of keystrokes, just in the interest of not colliding with anything for the moment. Control-Shift-Alt-M is going to search for any members in the current file. So we're going to tick all of those member boxes, fields, methods, and things like that. We're going to deliberately untick all of the types, the classes, the structures, the delegates, and we're going to make sure that the scope for this particular search is just the current file. Over here you can see the text necessary for this. It's just in there. I've got a blog post we'll link to in just a minute, and you get the full instructions there, so don't necessarily worry. You don't need to take all of this on board at the moment. But it was as simple as putting the keystroke in, calling QuickNav, which is the name of this function, all the parameters in there. I've chosen to leave the context completely blank, although you can investigate what you might think is appropriate there. I made a second keystroke here, Control-Shift-Alt-T, and all I've really changed here is the parameters that are getting passed. If we look at the difference there, we've got all members, all visibilities, current file, whereas this one is all types, all visibilities, and in the current solution, i.e. the entire solution.
Hey, Roy, I noticed that in both of those examples, you are not passing in anything for one of the parameters, as indicated by the comma.
That is correct, yes. Well, each of these parameters deals with one of the blocks of options from the original window. Okay, I have a third example here, my own replaced version of Control-Shift-Q, which I deliberately pass all types and all members and all visibilities and the current solution. The reason I'm doing this is I've created one shortcut for finding methods in the file and another shortcut for finding types anywhere. If I were to use one of those and successfully find what I was after, and then later decide to use the original Control-Shift-Q, it would remember the previous set of settings. So I'm using this shortcut here to wipe everything back to scratch every time. I figure that with the first two shortcuts, I'm probably good enough to have the original just do everything regardless. So I'm kind of overriding the original behavior. So what the blank means in each of these cases, this is the members section that's blanked here, so we're not going to find any members. And up here, you can see, as with the previous, it said all types. Here we have absolutely nothing. So this is no types whatsoever. So one for each purpose, and then a third shortcut that'll just find everything.
Hey, Roy, okay. Can we show people in the user guide where they can get the documentation for the QuickNav command, so they can see how you derive this?
I believe that is there. So in the main DevExpress window, we have a user guide. This is an interactive user guide, which is to say that it dynamically generates its content based on the plugins that supply the documentation. So you can write a plugin, you can add documentation to it, and it'll fit into this particular location here. I'm just trying to remember where this will be precisely.
Reference. It's going to be in reference.
Look it up.
And then actions.
Okay.
And then if you scroll down here, you should see QuickNav. in that
Of
piece of the
course.
bottom. And then once you see QuickNav, you can jump on it to get information on it.
Slightly higher. There we go.
So these are all the commands that are loaded in CodeRush right now for Rory. So you'll see not only commands that we ship, but also commands registered by plugins. What's cool about this is this documentation is created live based on whatever plugins he has loaded, including the description of the parameters. That's something that a plugin writer would specify, and so the documentation is totally built live right there. So here you can see what's going on here with regards to that. Shows the options that are available, whether it's required or not. So,
yep.
Okay, cool.
So just a quick demo of that, just to prove I'm not making this up. If I go Control-Shift-Alt-M and we search for methods, and you will see, actually, although I haven't collapsed them, you'll see that all these types have been disabled. And indeed, we've switched from the whole solution to just the current file. So there's a very limited list already without my typing anything at all. If we close that down and we go Control-Shift-Alt-T for type, the same dialog launches, and oops, and you can see even before I've resized here that again all the members have been turned off, all the types back on, and we're back to a full solution. So everything that's being searched is now, the context of it has been changed. We'll now find a completely different, and you can see a much bigger list even by default. Okay, so that's QuickNav. The last thing that I want to cover is hopefully, we're all familiar with a tab to next reference feature. Okay, tab to next reference is one of those gems that is just perfect for almost everything. I know I say that because I really do like the way it works. I've got a post here somewhere. That's right. Click through to here. This is a blog post I wrote a little while back on tab to next reference, just to quickly introduce it. Essentially, all it is it's taking that knowledge you have of tabbing between text boxes in a dialog, which is something we've been doing for years and years and years on Windows, and applying it to a different context. The context in this case being identifiers. So as you can see on the screen, there's a little demo of somebody tabbing between references to an mname private variable. And you're going through all the references to it. We're not finding the name parameter here because it's a different actual reference. And it's really, really intuitive. So what we've done is we've written some plugins. These are third-party plugins you can download and install into your own system. We have numerous videos showing the development of these and how you can actually do the installation. We can cover that briefly in a moment. But we've got some examples of how tab to next reference is used in a whole bunch of new ways. So very, very quickly, what I want to do is to show you how to find these plugins. That's the first thing. So we go to the DevExpress menu, source of all wonderfulness, and down to the community plugins menu item here. And that'll launch the community plugins page inside of Visual Studio. You can obviously take the URL and go and use it in your browser of choice, but in the interest of time, we'll leave this here. The simplest way to find plugins is to click this wiki link, because the plugins that have reached a reasonable level of maturity, that have some kind of usefulness beyond just one person, shall we say, have typically been given their own wiki page. And I'll jump now to the attribute tabber plugin. This is just another example. The general makeup of such a screen is obviously an introduction to what the item does, who wrote it, and where you can get various bits of information on using it. The key piece here is a download button at the top. Click the download button, redirect it to a page. Here you'll find a single zip file. This will represent the latest version of this plugin. Download the zip, and in your sort of plugin, your zip management tool of choice. And then we can come back in here. We go to the DevExpress menu, choose About, and on the About screen we've got a couple of useful buttons here. The one that we need in this case is Plugins. Press that, and we will get 2 copies of Explorer opened. In this case, this is the one we want, but there's a second one also opened, which links to the DX4. We don't need that one for now. The path, if you haven't altered it, will be very, very similar to what I've got here, including your username and showing where you need to put this. Drop the DLLs in there and either restart Studio, or in the case of more modern copies of CodeRush, you can reload the DX core from the DevExpress menu. That should be all you need. One little word of warning, it is possible to download a zip file and to have the operating system classify everything in it as blocked from a security standpoint. This is purely because of it knowing that it came from the internet. You may have to right-click the DLL and choose unblock. There are blog posts available to help you with that process. But if the plugin doesn't work straight away, it may have been effectively quarantined by the OS until you say, yes, I honestly do want to run this. Okay? Having put these in place, let's just assume we've done that with all of the plugins that I'm going to demonstrate now. We've got a few of them. We've got 4 separate extensions, and these were all very quick to write, very simple to write, but the usefulness is just wonderful in many cases. The first one is an element tag tabber. This was written by Mark, I believe, back in one of our CodeRush feature workshops, and effectively provides tab to next reference from the start tag to the end tag in any HTML or XML piece of documentation. So I literally just hit tab, and you can see in the window down the bottom right there, it's just tab. I'm really not doing anything, and it's jumping from one place to another. I can go from head, title, that's no problem. The div tags all work. We can switch out to some people. We can go from the start to the end of the XML. We can, funnily enough, there obviously isn't a close tag on person there. So when I hit tab, it decides to try and insert a character instead because it's a more logical thing to do. If I use an existing refactoring and I add an end tag, we can then tab between these items, and that's not a problem. In fact, indeed, if I was to move that end tag and just say for the sake of argument that this larger person was indeed in charge, oh dear, that's the wrong way around, isn't it? Then we can tab from person to the end person there, and everything continues to work exactly as you might expect. Our next example is an attribute tabber. I wrote this a few weeks back now, basically as a follow-up, because Mark's one was obviously so useful, and I thought, well, it would be really, really good if I could tab between the attributes in a given tag and indeed the values within them. You can see obviously a little underline there as Studio detects that I have not used some legitimate attributes, but that's not a problem anyway. Using the attributes tabber, position your caret on the name of an attribute, or indeed on the value, it doesn't matter which, and just hit tab. Again, you'll now find yourself tabbing between the various elements and their values, sorry, the attributes and their values. The great part about this is it won't select the quote marks. So I can just go straight through here, and I can hit that, type tab, and again, and keep going. And I haven't had to change anything here. I'm not having to worry about opening or closing quote marks. I'm not having to worry that I might have accidentally selected, including the spacebar there, and started doing typing like that, because now I would have generated some very, very bad code, and I may not notice for some time to come. So it's a very quick way of just jumping between these elements that you may want to edit. It makes things considerably simpler. 2 more, and then I'm done. So the first one is back to regions. Some people like them, some people hate them. The jury is out. There are good arguments on either side as far as I'm concerned. So if you find yourself within some code that has some regions, then and you're one of these people who doesn't like using them, you'll typically have them all expanded, and that's fair enough because it lets you see the full amount of code, except now that you've got to navigate through the full amount of code. So what you need to do is to jump maybe from the start of the region to the end of the region, which is precisely what the region tabber is for. Place the caret on the start region, hit the tab key, and now I'm tabbing literally between the start and the end of that single region. I'll bring the whole thing on screen here just so you can see that it's not cheating, but of course it will reorient the screen where necessary to do that. And having tabbed to the next one, we can just go down and then tab from region 2 to its end tag. And again, very quick, very simple. There's no speed issue here. It just works. One of those simple things that it's exactly as easy as it seems like. One more, very last one.
Hey, Rory?
Yes.
I just want to see that attribute tabber demoed again. I really like that. This is like the first time I've seen it live, happening live.
Have you not seen this? Okay. So yeah, all it really is, it's highlighting the names and the values of all of the attributes in the current tag. Okay? Press that tab key. When I sit here on forename and I hit tab, we've now got forename, the value, surname, the value, and obviously I've now mangled this particular attribute and its value. I had a mind to maybe add an option to not pick up on the attribute names, because there would be maybe a logical reason for that. So now you could sort of tab first value, and then you'd hit a single tab, and you'd reach the next attribute value. So there's a potential option for development in the future there. But as it stands, you can get all 6 pieces. You
can make a change and immediately hit tab to get to the next piece.
That's right. You can indeed.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And then when you're at the last one, it just cycles back to the beginning. Is that right?
That is right indeed, yeah. Okay,
show us the last thing.
Okay, so the last one was suggested, well, a long time ago, and then we were reminded of it recently. We thought, oh yeah, we could do that. It's a ToDo tabber. Failing really badly at naming my plugins, I'm afraid. That was what we came up with. This is a mechanism of jumping from one to-do item to the next, to the next, to the next, because you tend to go through code and you get distracted. You say, to do, I must come back and do this. But of course, when you come back, you might not open that file, and it might be difficult to find. We do obviously have an option for a task list that's built into Studio, and this will list out items, but again, it takes up real estate. So ideally, you might prefer not to do that as you're navigating through code, because you can only see a small amount of code. If I bring that list up, you can imagine that if I would dock that, well, I've immediately lost a third of my real estate. So that's not necessarily the best way to do things. So in this case, just place the caret inside the to-do phrase and start hitting tab. Okay, it's not case sensitive, so it'll pick up on the differences there, but it is very deliberately only picking up on matching phrases. This is to do in this case. It will, however, pick up on any similar phrase. The basic rule is text that a comment that has a colon character in it. Find the left-hand side of that and match anything else. So I can leap between hacks as well, and I don't have to register these types anywhere. This will just work. I can probably type wibble colon, and let's copy that down here.
Roy, I just want to say I love this too. This is awesome.
And we can just easily tab between that.
Why are we not doing our CodeRush feature webinars? You're just like creating these. We should be doing these in front of everybody.
I can't stop making them, even if we maybe stop showing them
in the background. Yeah, I love that. That's really fun.
And so,
cool.
Like all tab to next references, right? This is solution wide. Okay, this will find them anywhere.
I love it. Exciting.
Right. So I think that's it for my little bit there.
And look at us, we're like 2 minutes under. I've been answering. There've been some questions that have been asked, and I've just been typing in answers as they've been coming in. One of the questions that I'll just repeat the questions and a couple of the answers. One of the questions was when are we going to get an update to our shortcut PDF? It appears to be 2 years out of date. This is our shortcuts list that's out there. Rory, if you can bring that up on screen.
Yeah.
If you have an opportunity to do that, so folks can see that. Yeah, we've made a few shortcut changes. The biggest group that we've added have been in the area of the test runner since that last one was out. So it's now on our to-do list, and give us like a week or two, and we'll work on that and get a new update.
For those who don't already have the shortcut list, I'll say that we do have a few resources out there which can help. We've got this resources post. I've got the URL there, and I'm sure we'll put that up in the video for those who are looking for it afterwards. This does list the link to the shortcuts and templates quick sheet. It also links to various areas of help, blog posts, our own Twitter locations, and various other little pieces around there. So there's a good resource there for all sorts of information.
Okay.
So let me jump in here.
Right.
So get your questions in for Mark and Rory, and while you do so, I've got another poll for you, if you wouldn't mind voting on this particular poll. What is your primary developer platform? Is it ASP.NET? Is it WPF? Is it Silverlight? WinForms? Let us know, just so we can take this back to management and talk about what we're going to be doing in 2012. So leave that up for a couple more seconds. At the moment, it seems to be mostly ASP.NET. We seem to have maybe 3 out of 5 people on ASP.NET. Cool. Thank you.
All right. So while folks are answering that, let's see a couple others. One question was if I remove or reinstall a community plugin and I've set options for them or use commands, will the leftover settings cause problems? The answer is essentially no. Any settings that the plugin stores out to disk will still be there in case you reinstall, so you'll have those settings preserved. Shortcut bindings will simply do nothing if you press that key, or if another key is bound to it, that command will fire, and the one that doesn't exist will just send a message off to the log that the command was not found. So it's not a problem to uninstall and reinstall. One question is, can we download the webinar after it's finished? Yes, it should be available within a day or so. There was a question here from Bradley. He's asking, he said, early videos showed my machine having a large type region line painter, something that was where I had font that was different from what you'd see in large type, and is it going to be released? And the answer is probably no right now, although there's a possibility that you'll get something similar but different in the future. And so it essentially what it did is it allowed you to have something very, of any font you want in any color right there in the code, have that text right there, be there and be a comment and have it be preserved. It was like an HTML comment plugin is what it was. We ran into some problems when Visual Studio went to 2010, and that was one of the plugins we were not able to port easily, and so it's kind of just been sitting there not being used. However, there is a possibility that something like that will come in the future, but I can't say when. What else? How about using resolving as in resharper? I'm not sure what you mean by resolving in there, Alex. I need maybe more context on that question. So in general, though, if you have a question about a competing feature, we have most features that the competitors have. So all the major features we have, and there may be some minor features that we don't have, and that's kind of the nice thing about being able to write the plugins. But if I get more information from Alex on resolving, we can look at that and talk about how we can answer that.
It's worth pointing out at this stage that we are also happy to answer questions via Twitter or email. You can get my email, roryb@devexpress.com. I'm Rory Becker on Twitter. Please feel free to ask questions about anything, configuration, installation, plugin coding, usage, all that stuff, and we'll do our very best to help you out in every case.
Yes, yeah. Tweeting with the word CodeRush in it is a great way to get an answer almost immediately. Rory and I try to race each other to respond sometimes.
Of course, the worst time to do that is when we're doing a webinar, because right now I have no idea what's going on.
That's true.
Concentrating fully on the task at hand. Right.
So there was one other, can we get achievement scoring for each refactoring we do? This achievement thing is we've talked about this idea. We saw Visual Studio release something recently, and I guess the thing that concerns me are the negative comments that the achievements garnered from the Visual Studio implementation done by the Channel N folks, and part of the reason for that is because they had kind of some sarcastic achievements in there, achievements for things you actually didn't want to do. So if we do achievements, it'll be about things that are like you can call real achievements. It won't be for bad code. It'll be for good code. And I think coupled with this, I'm just thinking out loud, Roy, but I kind of want to do demerits as well, the opposite, right? Giant, large, unmaintainable methods, tightly coupled classes, things like that should. There should be some kind of feedback along those lines there if we were going to talk about achievements. But anyway, for now, we don't have achievements in there. It's something that you could create very easily using a CodeRush plugin. We might do this in the future, and the reason why is because there's actually an event that fires whenever a CodeRush feature is used. So if you want to create this yourself, you could do this very easily. And is that it for our questions? I don't have any more information from Alex on resolving on what he's talking about, so maybe you can contact us afterwards using the email address or tweeting on Twitter, and we can see what you're looking for, what you're missing. Okay.
We'll give you a couple more minutes to put some more questions in there. One more poll I've got here is basically, which of the following platforms are you currently evaluating? Are you looking at HTML5? Are you looking at Silverlight or WPF or ASP.NET? HTML5 is kind of interesting. I'm sure a lot of people here know that I'm kind of keen on the old HTML5 and CSS3 and JavaScript especially. So I'd be very interested to see what people are thinking about here.
Just to clarify, Julian, on that is platforms rather than our own platform suites.
That is platforms, yeah. We don't have anything for HTML5 right now.
Indeed.
For example. No, so if you're going to be writing an application, what are you evaluating right now for the platform it's going to be deployed on, essentially? Cool. Well, thanks very much for those poll results. It's roughly half and half between ASP.NET and HTML5. It's kind of interesting. Let's see what kind of questions we have now. Okay, no questions. All right, well...
I just want to acknowledge Andreas has got some interesting suggestions. He's suggesting 1 achievement per refactoring. So if you use a refactoring, you get an achievement for it. So yeah, maybe that's something to consider. There's like 200 refactorings and about another 50 code providers. So yeah. We could certainly that's certainly one easy way to start. So we could definitely do that.
Actually, while chat away a little bit, Bradley's asked a question here. He wants a language poll. Let me see if I can work one up. Oops, here it comes. So chat amongst yourselves for a moment.
Alex is giving us more information using resolving as in ReSharper. He says, how about using resolving, using as a keyword, using system.xml. I think, I'm not sure, do you know what he's talking about? What's your guess?
This sounds very much like importing namespaces. Which is, yeah.
Gotcha.
So using directives as opposed to using blocks. That makes sense. So dragging in using system.text or .data.text or something similar because you're using a string builder.
Did we ship that, didn't we? Or we published that, right?
I want to say we at least had a CodeRush feature workshop result from that. We do have a plugin, CR import namespace, if I am remembering correctly.
Can you bring that up on your screen?
Worth giving that a look. Yep. It is likely.
Yeah, I think that's probably what he's talking about. So the ability to have the caret on a type reference, Alex, if I'm correct, if this matches.
Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. This is it right here. Yeah,
so this is an example of using a few different things here. There's a use of dataset, for example, when you did not have a reference. And this is important. In what we coded here, we didn't have a reference or a using for the system.data namespace. So there was nothing in there at all. And it went and found both. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it will give you a list of alternates if there's more than one.
Now, one of the things that's really cool about this is freeze your screen right there, Rory, so we can see the progress bar at the top. It was the progress bar that was the green one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first time you use this, it creates a cache and it scans whatever framework you have open. So right now it says there, you can see in the text. You can maybe hover your mouse over it, performing a one-time scan of the .NET 4.0 framework. So do that once the first time you use it. After that, it's really, really fast. This was built by myself and a few other members of the CodeRush team. So this was in response to a request we got. Somebody who said, hey, can we get something that does this? And we built it, and it's really fast and does things I think the competition does not do in terms of helping you out in terms of importing the namespace. I don't remember what those... Do you remember what the things it does that the competition does not do? I forget what they are.
It would be unfair of me to be absolutely certain because obviously things change. But last time I knew, the competition would only import references. Sorry, it would not import references at all, but it would do namespaces of assemblies already referenced by any project in the solution.
Gotcha.
Or projects within the solution.
Got it.
But if you weren't already using system.data somewhere in your system, or in your solution, it would be incapable of finding it.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
So, just to summarize, we cover the entire framework and all versions, as it were, supported by VS 2010.
Rock on. I've just briefly done this poll here. What languages are you using with CodeRush or one of our competitors? Is it C#, Visual Basic, JavaScript, C++? Just let us know. And it's kind of interesting to see.
Meanwhile, Jim Beers is asking, which event do I hook into when a refactoring is accomplished? So, I just went into the DevExpress menu. I chose New Plugin, and so we're going to create a new plugin, and I'll show you that event. Answer that in a moment.
You want to switch back to your screen first, Mark?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's do that. Go ahead. Let's make me the presenter.
That hopefully has done that.
And let's see, looks like
Thanks for the
I'm
poll.
already showing my screen.
Most people are actually using C#. So about 30% Visual Basic, 18% JavaScript. You're my homies, guys. And 7% plus
You're my
plus.
homies.
Is that one of the language options?
Julian, can you even have homies? You're like British. You're like, you know.
Hey, I'm British.
Yeah, Julian's an old man.
More of us
Okay?
here than there is of you.
I'm an old man,
You're
and Julian's older
outnumbered.
than I am. All right, so let's look at this. So we have here's the this is the answer to Jim Beer's. I think it's called feature invoked. All right, so the feature gets invoked when a plugin is used. Let's just set a breakpoint here, and we'll run it, and then we'll do a refactoring, and we'll test to make sure what I'm saying is true. What should happen is this should get, when we do any refactoring, this event should be triggered, and details on the feature should come in. So we'll just do I'm doing a run right now. Let me run down the questions list. Jim Foy says Control-Shift-Q doesn't default the text to a selection like the VS Editor when pressing Control-Comma. Wow, is this intentional? And so let's see if we have a UI mistake, a usability mistake in here. So whatever I'm typing in my filter, and let's go over here, and I like hit Control-Shift-Q. Well, I think, is he talking about if there's a selection?
When you've got something selected, will it appear?
Yeah, it's selecting for me. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what he's talking about. Doesn't default text to a selection. Oh, maybe he's talking about this. If I'm here and I hit Control-Shift-Q. That's what he's talking about, I think. Right? If I'm
so
here
no
and I want to see
automatic
this,
selection.
it's not in there. Okay, so that's something we can change. That's a good idea. We can probably change that. Okay. How about importing namespaces into XAML files? This is from Andreas Finn, and I'm not sure. I need a little more context on that, Andreas. And I'm not sure we can answer this here or not. But my email address is markm, M-A-R-K-M, at DevExpress.com, and you can send me an email asking that question and give us just a little bit more detail on that. Or if you have time, we have time here, and you can give us more detail in the chat room. We can look at that too. Matt says he's got to go, and Jim says, bless you. All right, so good. We're good to go there. Okay, so with Andreas, so if you're asking for a shortcut for importing a namespace, I think the answer is we don't have a great shortcut for it. The closest thing I know of is I think it's the NS template. So I'm waiting for. Notice I'm loading a lot of symbols down here, and so I'm waiting for Visual Studio to start up on the test piece. I don't think I have a second instance of Visual Studio that I can quickly go to. Rory, can you create a new XAML, a WPF application with XAML in it, in case you're able to get it faster than I am? And
it should be noted that Mark's system is loading slower because he's loading all the symbols for CodeRush as well as everything else, which isn't normally the case for anyone else outside of the IDE team.
Yeah. And you know what else I just realized is I got my machine on balanced instead of high performance. Let's crank that up a bit and see if that has any impact. I've always wanted like a physical crank on the side of my machine. And if I crank
Generate that little extra bit of power.
More processors like kick in. Yeah. Shoot, this is taking much longer than I wanted it to take to come up here. Do you have the XAML?
Right, I have a XAML application.
Okay.
I don't know anything about WPF, I would say, so I don't know how useful this will be.
So, hold on a second. I'm opening up.
Oh yes, it's trying to load the designer. What fun.
I want to open it up and I want to use a feature. And come on. Yeah, everything is crazy. It's crazy slow right now.
Right, well I have a XAML app.
All right, let me switch over to you.
Switch to me.
And actually, do I have? Yeah, I just want to get that. All right, we'll switch to you. And all right, switching over to Rory for a second, and then we'll switch back to me when you're done, and I'll get the answer to the other piece.
Okay. What would you like me to show?
Go on the line that says WinFX 2006 XAML. Go to the end of that line.
This one here.
Hit enter.
Yep.
and I think it's NS for namespace. Hit NS space.
Oh, there we go. That's
and
nice.
then now you can specify the name of the namespace and the namespace and the DLL assembly name. So that is that. I don't know if that's really answering your question, Andreas. I'm not I'm not sure if I'm totally getting that or not from you. So let's come back over to switch over to my machine, Rory. Let's change presenter back to me.
Yep, sorry. There we go. Heading at you.
Okay, and so you can see my screen now where I've opened up the project we were just working in. I'm going to hit F2 to rename. And interesting, so as soon as I hit F2, we come in here, and the feature category is a refactoring, and the text is a rename. So there you can see here. So here's how, this is to answer Jim Beers' question, how do I hook in and want to create my own achievements? This is how you do it. So you have a feature category, which is text that's out there. It's going to be, these are just going to be strings. And so you'll have the category, and then the text will be the name of the feature. So refactoring, rename. And that's how you can do it. You just look for that text, and then you look for the name of the piece right here. And so every feature that's executed will trigger this event out. Let's
I can see it now. The first time you execute every refactoring, we'll have a billboard text going up. Congratulations, new refactoring discovered. Now
I just hit enter, and interesting. It says navigation break all links. I see. So this is not a feature. This is a kind of a maintenance feature that just took place when for the break all links. That's not something I would give anybody an achievement for. But what happens is when I hit F2 to rename, we're jumping over here. Let's come back. We set up links between these two. And so if I make a change, is it going to now? It doesn't do anything there. Okay, good. So my new name, like this, and then when I hit enter, we execute the other command, which is break all links. And that comes in over here. So that's simply just letting you know that that was applied, that refactoring was applied. So the last refactoring was applied. Some refactorings execute immediately, and some have interactive phases. So when I execute the rename, that's the interactive phase that it goes into, which allows me to do it, to work with it. I want to see if I hit the tab key, and there you go. Tab key comes in, and we see the features navigation. Oh, interesting, it's dropping a marker first, because this is kind of a subtle thing that's happening. And one more, I hit F5 to run, and now we have, oh, interesting, select next nav field, which is essentially what tab to next reference is doing. So you may have to do some experimentation to see what's really happening, but to finally get to the point where, oh, they just did tab to next reference. But that's a way to do it. Okay. There's also another interesting event now that we're talking about all of this. I'll just show you one other interesting event. You can also track Visual Studio features as well by hooking into command executed, and then just doing essentially querying the parameters that come in. In the event args here, we have the command name, and I would look at that, and that command name is going to correspond to the commands that you see inside the options on the keyboard page, these right here. So you can also listen for Visual Studio commands and get a sense of what's happening as well, if that's interesting to you. So that's how you do it. So that plus some way to store what they've done, and you're kind of good to go. Okay, what else? Andreas is saying, for instance, if you need to reference a class control in your local namespace, it would be cool to have a consume first for those also, sort of going through your reference assemblies as well. Now, Andreas, I think that the plugin that Rory showed is doing exactly what you're saying. And if it's not, let us know how it's not. Am I reading that the same way you are, Rory? The question is,
something else, so
Andreas, is it? Oh, wait. Oh, I'm sorry. This is on importing namespaces into XAML files. Sorry.
Yeah. So we used the template before, which is a fairly simple version. But
I see. Yeah, Andreas, that's a good idea. Rory, can you write that down for me and send that to me? We'll talk about that. Do you have any timeline on code cleanup rules for VBNet? I thought we already supported VBNet in code cleanup. Rory, do you know what our status is on that?
excuse me. We break things down by it's not. Let me see, how is this done? We've got code formatting and code cleanup, and there are no code cleanup rules, but there are code formatting rules for Visual Basic.
Oh, got it. Now I see what the problem is. Okay, so when is the timeline for that? I'll get on the devs. We'll make it be for the next release. So next release is your answer to that question. Okay.
Okay. On that note, I think we've now run over 22 minutes. So I think that's it for now. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Just a quick note: we're constantly updating our website with new webinars. I know I have one coming up. Maybe I can get Mark to host mine. So remember to check out devexpress.com/webinars for any upcoming sessions. Learn how to accelerate productivity, build stunning apps, and work faster and smarter than ever before with DXv2. I'd like to thank Mark and Rory for coming along today and showing CodeRush in action. Excellent, thanks guys. And of course, thank you for joining us, everybody out there. Let's see what develops.